would you characterize the state of the economy?
Confusing. Jobs numbers are incredibly strong and picking up, but GDP numbers are getting slower by the quarter, and there's a lot of peril around the world. My best guess is that we're slowing a decent amount, but more towards our potential than falling below that. But it's a confusing moment right now with different indicators in different ways.
Doug, how would you characterize it?
Yeah. I'd agree to a great extent. I think we are slowing, but you would expect the economy to slow back toward its potential. I think there's excessive pessimism about the possibility of a recession. 70% of growth comes out of the household sector. Personal consumption expenditures have been very solid. They've ranged between 2.4 and 2.9% for 3 years now. You can't get a recession unless the household sector goes south, and I think Courtney's report is one that says it's not. So the near term looks good, but there are some headwinds. I think there are issues in trade policy, in immigration policy, in the budget that have to be dealt with, and the question is, will they in 2020 and beyond?
Jason, is the outlook, though, less confusing than you would have thought it when your old boss left the White House?
The biggest problem we had then is still the biggest problem we have now, which is slow productivity growth. So job market's gone further than I think most people would have expected, with a lot more people coming off the sidelines than I really thought were necessarily there. But that can't keep happening forever. And so the big question is, will we unlock productivity growth? And I think, to Doug's point, if we make bad mistakes on trade and immigration, we're going to be doing the opposite of unlocking productivity growth. We're going to guarantee low growth going forward.
And Doug, just in terms of what fiscal policies remain in play right now, I mean, it almost seems as if with the tax law in place for over a year right now, now we have split government. Is there even much of an economic agenda that investors, consumers are fixated on right now, aside from just removing those overhangs of the trade frictions?
Yeah, I don't see a big fiscal policy agenda. You don't hear talk about finishing the job on tax reform. There are still some things that could be done. You hear zero talk about taking on the spending side of the budget. So in terms of the kinds of things that the Congress and the administration are going to do in this year, I think two jump out. One, there will have to be an increase or suspension of the debt limit. Hopefully that's done in an expeditious fashion with as little to do as possible. We've seen that movie before. We don't need it. And secondly, by the end of the year, they have to have an agreement on the spending caps. And in the absence of an agreement, there's a big cut in spending that's about a half percentage point of GDP. That's a self-inflicted wound that no one needs. So those are the two I'm watching.
So, Jason, it sounds like taxes are going to be the key issue. I mean, we'll listen for it tonight, but heading into 2020, already your party, they want to go after the rich when it comes to taxes. President Trump touting his corporate tax and all sorts of tax cuts for Americans. Where do you think this is going to land? What makes the most sense economically?
Yeah, look, I don't think we're going to have a lot of tax legislation in the next 2 years, but we're going to have an important debate. And I think one is what the level of revenue is. Right now, we're in the 16% of GDP range, which is incredibly low. We need more revenue. Second, I try to get additional revenue in as efficient a way as possible. I think we can do things like have bigger expensing for the business sector, which would help investment at the same time that we bring corporate rates up a little bit. And then finally, I think certainly the whole Democratic Party does think that high-income households can afford to pay more taxes, and we can debate the best way to go about that. But I think that's one part of an overall economic strategy, and one I think makes sense.